6 is your everyday loser willing to do anything for one night standoff. He is tricked into conquering a different planet by his two hot bosses who offer him their first time in exchange for completing the mission. Without thinking, 6 agrees only to later find how he made one hell of a mistake. However, before any of this, Combat Agent 6 is informed that he has been chosen to serve as a spy for Kisaragi Corporation. He's informed by two cosplayers, Astaroth and Belial, that there are several Earth-like planets and he will be sent to one of them. Agent 6 is confused about it and secretly doubts their supposed technology to travel between planets. However, the girls reveal that they have nearly conquered the world and ask him if he knows what happens to agents like himself when they succeed. He assumes they will become rulers, but they inform him that his department will be downsized and he will be jobless like the people watching this video. Agent 6 is furious, reminding them that they performed an operation on his body, changing him forever, so they should take responsibility. He is then introduced to Lilith, the Dark One. Agent 6 sees that she has a teleportation device and she compliments him on his sharpness. Next, he meets Alice Kisaragi, whom he mistakes for a child until she corrects him rudely. It is told to him that she's high-tech android designed to support him and explains that her core will explode if he tries to harm her. Alice acts like the boss and wants to take over all tasks that require thinking since Agent 6 is a loser. He is given two tasks: build a base with a teleporter for easy travel between Earth and the new planet, and investigate the area to find quick solutions for environmental and food problems. Agent 6 desperately seeks affection from Astaroth by grabbing her talons and tries to kiss her, but is swiftly rejected and thrown into the teleporter. Little does he know that they have only tested the machine a few times in the past and it could very well roast him if it fails. He considers changing his mind, but it's too late as she sends them off. The duo free fall through the sky, with Agent 6's asking his partner Alice to transform into something to safely land them. However, her only function is self-destructing, though she does come equipped with a parachute. They land safely on the ground now, where Agent 6 is eager to build the teleportation device and return home immediately. However, Alice clarifies that it will take at least a month to complete the process. Fortunately, their current planet resembles Earth and should have human inhabitants. Agent 6 suggests using the device given to him to order a buggy for transportation, but Alice reminds him they need evil points to do so, of which he only has 300 left. She further explains how Kisaragi employees were implanted with brain chips that detect their every evil act and allocate corresponding points, and so Agent 6 can just get many points easily with his acts. Before they can fully digest this information, they are ambushed by a pack of monsters and Agent 6 must single-handedly defeat them while Alice provides support with her combat abilities as a normal girl her age. Out of frustration, Agent 6 calls her a piece of junk, but quickly regrets it when he finds himself in the mouth of a beast and agrees to use the Risk device to order a shotgun for Alice. Together, they emerge victorious against the beastly foes. Just then, they are discovered by a knight who speaks a foreign language that Agent 6 cannot understand. Alice steps in to introduce themselves as travelers and fabricates a story about Agent 6 being a high-ranking official from a distant country who was defending his people when he saved her. The knight, named Snow, is impressed by their survival skills and welcomes them to her country with open arms. Snow is taken aback when 6 recognizes an ancient artifact, which is basically a tank that helped their country defeat a demon. She explains that it was preserved using magic. They are both surprised to learn about the existence of magic in this land. Snow clarifies that only those who possess the ability can use it. Within the castle, they are introduced to Princess Tilly's, and 6 is instantly smitten with her, but in the most Riz manner possible, as he can't stop fantasizing about her. Princess Tilly's reveals that their kingdom is at war with demons and they are in need of strong fighters. The demon lord from the neighboring kingdom declared war without warning. She asks for 6's help, but Alice apologizes for his rough behavior as he didn't bow and acted like a creep. Snow can't help but think that 6 has caught her interest, but she quickly dismisses the thought and explains that she only cares about daddy money. Snow proudly shows off a rainmaking machine that Alice believes she can fix. Excitedly, Snow runs off to tell everyone and reminds them that they will all share the glory. After fixing the machine, Alice suggests implementing a new password, and 6 comes up with a cringe knee which would embarrass Princess Tilly's if she were to say it in front of everyone. But before anything else happens, they are caught in the act and are tied up to be presented in front of the king. The king doesn't understand why 6 would do such a foolish thing, but he forgives them since they fixed the artifact. Princess Tilly's realizes the value of their knowledge and strength and asks them to work for her personally. However, Snow suspects that they might be spies, but Six points out that it was Snow who allowed them into the kingdom in the first place. Finally, Six becomes an honorable knight of the Kingdom of Grace and will lead a group of interceptors. Snow still doesn't trust him, but Alice puts Snow back in her place when she starts arguing with him, as Six is her superior from this point forward, and she should be submissive towards him. Due to the destruction caused by the demons, their nation's army is now made up of older men and young women. Snow starts selecting members for Six's group, while Alice goes through the resumes. She finds two candidates that she likes. First up is Rose, who introduces herself as an artificial combat chimera. Her sole power is to absorb demon powers by consuming their meat in big quantities. Doing this leads in her taking on some of their physical characteristics like growing a tail, but this causes her to breathe fire and do random useless stuff. The next member to join the team is Grim, a seemingly powerful wizard. Snow suggests putting her in charge to achieve victory faster. After a heated conversation between the two, Six succeeds in showing his inner creep and looks up at her plot by throwing her wheelchair. After that, he even feels up Snow's plot just to teach her lesson. Later on, after this lewd parade, Princess Tilly's arrives and praises Snow's hard work and determination to reach where she is, and putting an end to Six's weird sick show. They soon come across an enemy goblin base, and Alice is astonished to see how easily the princess soldiers infiltrated. Snow proudly declares that glory comes from facing strong enemies head-on, but Six argues that his strategy is to cut off their supply lines and force a retreat. Rose, eager for battle, reveals that her grandfather's last wish was for her to devour every demon in the world and become the ultimate chimera. But Snow wants another strategy and insists on attacking the main camp directly, in order to gain more glory and pay off her debts for buying an expensive sword, just because she isn't making enough money after her demotion. Luckily, Six has a knack for making his accomplishments seem greater than they actually are. They successfully carry out his plan to attack the supply carts, with Rose using her fire attack to cook everything, including all of the goblins that lay there. Just as they are celebrating their victory, they are interrupted by one of the Demon Lord's Elite Four, Hine. She commends Six's ruthlessness and offers him a place in the Demon King's army. Six can be in charge of the humans and choose any woman he wants as a slave. But Alice reminds him of his duties as a hero, and he declines Hine's offer. As they prepare for battle against Hine and her Griffin demon, Six realizes just how unprepared his team is without Alice and Rose. But Alice proves her worth by providing support with her anti-Mega Beast bullets, despite the heavy recoil. She becomes more intrigued by the pair as they fight. Just then, a second demon appears to back up Hine, and he catches Grim off guard with an attack, sending her to Jesus in the process. The new demon called Gattlecan of the Lord's Elite Four joins the battle. Six sees Grim's lifeless body while Alice stands by helplessly. Despite his grief, Six gathers himself and asks for Alice to warp him a buzzsaw so he can exact revenge on the demon. However, Gattlecan is quickly called away before any harm can be done. In the aftermath, they hold a funeral for Grim, although it is explained that such an attack would never have killed her, and since she has demon blood, she'll eventually come back to life. Rose later reveals that due to this demon blood in her, she was always sent to battle on the front lines. It turns out that like Six, Grim was also treated poorly throughout her life. They take her to an altar and leave an offering with her in hopes of reviving her. Before heading to bed, Six stays behind to watch over his friend. To Six's surprise, Grim suddenly wakes up and assumes Six is there to punish her for not fighting harder, but he assures her that he just didn't want her to come back alone. The two take a stroll through town, and Six surprises her with a brand new wheelchair. She explains how people like them are different from others and are sent to dangerous places by the military to get rid of them. But Six is having too much fun with his newfound abilities and wouldn't leave this new harem for anything. As they run through the town scaring innocent couples for Six to collect evil points, eventually they are stopped by an officer whom Grim prepares to curse. However, she warns Six that if the curse fails, it will rebound on herself. In the end, it seems like the curse doesn't work as intended, as Grim ends up feeling the pain instead as she falls down from the wheelchair. At the castle, the king receives news that the demon army has retreated without any reason, and it doesn't make sense to anyone in the room. Agent Six arrives and takes credit for their retreat. But the royal strategist is not pleased with his unit, which comprises of women and children, or his lowly methods. However, Six proudly reveals that it was his unit that set fire to the demon's supplies, for which they are all grateful. The king explains that they must now wait for the chosen one, who will appear with a crest on their hand and save them from the demons according to the legend. Six looks at this opportunity to proclaim himself as the chosen one, so he proudly declares himself to be the chosen one. However, his revelation is quickly shattered when Tilly's points out that the mark on his hand is not a sign of destiny, but a lethal bite from a speckled local mosquito. 6 realizes he's only alive thanks to a shot given before their arrival. It is now told that Tilly's own brother is the chosen one as the crest appeared on his body recently. Later, Alice tries to force Rose to consume a grasshopper, believing it will grant her invincibility and make her hop around like a runaway criminal. However, Rose breaks free and questions why someone so powerful would let themselves be controlled by the army. As she struggles to remember who she truly is, all she can recall are vague memories of her grandfather who created her. The man was researching the Stone of Miracles, capable of granting any wish. In exchange for her help, they promise to share their findings on the ruins where she was born. The pair agrees that Rose should become a combat agent like 6, celebrating as she becomes his apprentice. That night, 6 has a strange feeling and wonders why no one has fallen in love with him yet. He believes he should have some fan service event happen by now and waits eagerly for a chance encounter with a girl's plot. Out of frustration, Alice makes 6 touch her flat silicon plot, only for him to be pissed out by it. Just then, Snow knocks at the door to call them for an important meeting with the cabinet. In the courtroom, the discussion is going that the Chosen One and his party have been defeated at Duster Tower by the demons. Though the Chosen One's wounds are not fatal, time is running out and the demons will win if they don't act fast. According to the Chosen One, there is a treasure at Duster Tower required to defeat the Demon Lord. Without him, the group must come up with a plan on their own. After mocking them for losing the last battle, 6 suggests setting fire to the tower as it'll definitely work. But he is reminded it's made of stone. He then proposes taking over the first floor and setting a fire at its center, but still he's ignored like a kindergartner. Ultimately, they decide to attack with sheer force the next day. As the battle begins, 6 waits for the evening. He explains that their chances of defeating the pair of demons who defeated the Chosen One are slim. However, if they can hold off the soldiers from taking the tower until Grimm wakes up, they can come up with a plan. Snow decides to go off on her own, but later returns to find that Grimm is still asleep. During sleeping, she talks in her sleep where she fantasizes about 6 playing catch with her racks. Before she says something extremely R-rated, she wakes up. As it is time for 6 to remove his heavy armor, they all begin scaling the side of the building quickly. However, Snow runs into a problem. She has been using her sword all day and is now losing strength. Falling would mean certain death for her and those below her as well, but 6 manages to catch her just in time. He asks her to hold on tighter to reduce wind resistance, but she quickly realizes his intentions of feeling up her plot once again. As they reach the top of the tower, the 2 demons boast about their victory over the Chosen One and believe that they will soon be promoted by the Demon Lord. One of them even considers himself stronger than the Demon Lord before being swiftly attacked by 6. Gil, the remaining demon at the top, is warned not to move or else they will pelt the currently hanging Rista with rocks until he falls. 6 earns even more evil points with this ruthless plan as they begin hitting Gil with rocks since he is not allowed to move. When the goat demon Rista returns to find Gil unconscious, 6 explains that there is still time to save him. However, he won't release him without a reason and blackmails the goat for money, earning even more evil points, and ultimately getting the treasure chest the Chosen One talked about. That same night, 6 receives his pay for everything he has done while Snow struggles to accept how he made a deal with the demons. Despite this, they playing really filthy, they still manage to get their hands on the treasure. 6 asks about the worth of his payment, which is enough for an entire family to live a life of luxury for 1 year. 6 then decides to quit being a spy for Kisaragi Corp so he can live there for the rest of his life. He explains to Alice how he had been underappreciated at the company and she begins to wonder why he didn't quit sooner. She also receives her payment, which really excites her as it's the second time she's ever received something after 6's shotgun. The General informs Agent 6 that the treasure they found has opened a path to the Demon Lord's castle for the hero's party, but he also receives word that they are under attack by Hine of the Flame. The newest mission for 6 now and the other members is to take out Hine and her army that's posing threats right now. It's soon revealed that this was all planned by the bald strategist who doesn't like 6 one bit. As they prepare for battle, 6 and Alice discuss how obvious it is that they were sent on a suicide mission. Moreover, they are not even at full power as Alice's shotgun is currently being repaired and Grimm has fallen asleep yet again. But 6 only wants to pretend like they will fight against Hine. Finally, Hine arrives with an army and has summoned golems using her magic. Snow shows up with a new sword that was leased out with a 3-year loan, and she instantly rushes into battle while Rose refuses to participate as she wants to take down a griffin so she can fly. Alice takes on the task of defeating Hine, leaving 6 to handle the golem. However, both struggle in their tasks and Alice resorts to warping and plastic explosives. 6 tries his best to buy time until the explosives arrive, but ends up getting his bum handed over to him in the process due to a longer than usual transfer time. He decides to release the limiters on his suit, which starts a countdown. Just then, Rose shows up to complain about the bad taste in Griffin but quickly shuts up as the countdown finishes and 6 overpowers the golem with overwhelming power. Meanwhile, Grim finally wakes up and 6 explains that there's a 3-minute cooldown after releasing his limiter where he's unable to move, leaving it up to his unit to protect him. Right at that moment, Hine arrives and 6 knows he needs more time. He compliments her juicy plot, but this only enrages her. Impressed by Rose, Hine expresses her disappointment after fighting Snow. Snow appears to explain that her new weapon was melted by Hine and asks for 6 to take revenge against her. He explains that he can't move, but Hine overhears and offers him a place in the Demon Lord's army once again. She promises 3 times his current pay and persuades him with a life filled with succubus and anything that could ride his meat. 6 apologizes to Alice as he gives in to temptation, but their moment is interrupted by Snow's arrival. In the chaos, Hine loses a precious object called the Magicite, the source of most of her power. Without it, she won't be powerful enough to remain in the Demon Lord's Elite Four. 6, always scheming, decides to exploit this situation and forces her to model for a photo shoot. While taking pictures even the devil would hesitate in taking. Each picture earns him more evil points. However, his true intentions are revealed when he refuses to give back the Magicite, earning even more evil points. Pissed, Hine flies away but vows revenge. Later that night, the unit celebrates Hine's victory and Snow finally acknowledges how valuable 6 and Alice are to the team. She may not fully accept 6 yet, but he realizes she must secretly have feelings for him. As Snow drops off a very drunk 6, she promises to one day kill him for teasing her so much. The strategist overhears this and takes her somewhere secluded. He understands that 6's help towards the kingdom is good and all, but he reminds her of her goal to rejoin the Royal Guard. Despite 6's foul-mouthed persona, Snow admits she wouldn't want to take all the credit for their unit's work. However, the strategist still thinks she hates them and reveals his plan to find evidence against 6, just like Snow had suspected from the beginning. But when he sends her with a reward to give to 6, she ultimately decides against betraying him. Standing outside his room, she overhears his conversation with Alice and is shocked to hear him talk about what being married to her would be like. And even more surprising is when he reminds Alice of their mission for the Kisaragi Corporation. They need to focus in order for 6 to become its leader, and so they need to focus on their spying mission and the need to find a hideout. Snow finally bangs the door open and confronts them directly about being spies. 6 labels Snow as a creep for barging in without knocking, but it becomes clear that Snow is not joking around. After getting to know that they are spies, she is still grateful for their help to her country and doesn't ask what their real identity, but right now she is only demanding that they leave immediately. Days later, Snow explains that the strategist assumed she was the reason 6 left and put her back in the Royal Guard. Rose and Grim are allowed back too. However, Snow feels terrible for her actions. During this time, Rose reports that the Demon Lord's army is on the move and may attack in the next few days. Snow regrets not giving 6 a chance to explain himself, but as we see, he is doing just fine on his own. The two have relocated in a tavern and are working on setting up the teleporter to connect with Earth. Agents will be sent once it's ready and the nation will be invaded. Alice senses something off about 6, but he reminds her that he is an agent for an evil corporation with no feelings. Preparations for the portal take around a month and they think about what 6 can do during this time. Alice warns that the demon army will come back with greater force than before, but 6 exclaims that Snow will get what she deserves after kicking them out. He takes responsibility for being a spy, though Alice points out how lenient Snow was since most nations would simply execute spies and play football with their heads. Here, 6 has no intention of going to save her because he's not a hero. That night, 6 earns evil points by teasing villagers by revealing his meat to all the women. Suddenly, Snow interrupts him. She knows he's a pitiful creep, but this is a new low even for him. However, 6 reveals that he was actually preparing for the Demon Lord's attack by gaining evil points. Snow doesn't believe him and he is surprised to learn she hasn't told anyone why he left. He seizes this opportunity to tell Rose to spread the news about Snow constantly making advances towards him, trying to play ladders with his snake. 6 offers to help in the upcoming battle, only asking for a simple apology from Snow, which she refuses to give. The next day, Six learns that his evil deeds earned him a bad reputation as the Zipper Man. Everyone is taunting him for showing his meat to anything that breathes, but it also resulted in a decent amount of evil points. Alice decides they will save 200 for their trump card and use the rest on mines. As they finish setting up the mines, they're stunned to hear that the Chosen One has disappeared. Alice supposes that he was close to defeating one of the Elite Four when an enemy used a teleportation spell, possibly leading to his demise. They reflect on how heroes often struggle and then become stronger through training and redemption. However, Six realizes that this Chosen One's story took a different turn, as he prematurely claimed the tower before redeeming himself, and was probably blasted away by the foes in the tower. With their last hope gone, Alice suggests two desperate solutions: bring in nuclear weapons from Hiroshima or have her infiltrate and self-destruct the Demon Lord's palace alone. Neither option sits well with Six, who thinks of fleeing the battle. But just as they are about to leave, Tilly's shows up in a hood and accuses Six of being a spy. He denies it at first but eventually confesses under threat of torture. Surprisingly, Tilly's doesn't want to arrest him. She just wants him to spread the word of her country's valiant fight against the Demon Lord and warn others of his power. Despite being reluctant about it, Six agrees to protect her for a while. Meanwhile, Alice reminds them that it would be easier to run when the Demon Lord attacks. However, Snow points out that they would rather die than flee. Rose and Grimm are hesitant to agree with Alice's plan to stand their ground and defend instead of retreating. As tensions rise between them, Tilly's worries about the imminent war while Six distracts himself by sharing stories about cringe unicorns and how only cherry boys can ride them. On the other side, Hine leads the Demon Lord's army, scared to face the creep again. Suddenly their army starts falling apart for unknown reasons, and Hine suddenly senses the Magicite nearby and lands at its location. At the castle, Tilly's is prepared to show the two that she's useful in battle as well, but they completely ignore her, while Six gains more evil points by fantasizing about the child. Later on, they are prepared for the battle, as the enemy forces approach led by an injured and angry Hine. Within the city, the battle between the humans and the demons continues. Suddenly, Hine and the Demon Lord's army appear on the horizon, ready to fight. Gritting her teeth, Grimm prepares a curse which she hopes will immobilize the enemy golems. She has collected rings from every couple in town, offering them as a sacrifice to her deity for more power. The curse succeeds and pins down the golems, rendering them immovable, but Grimm is not satisfied with this. She asks her lord to seal away Hine's flame magic forever. However, the curse backfires and rebounds onto Grimm herself. Unfazed, she continues to cast curses until she runs out of sacrifices, and maybe one of her wish to remove Hine's plot might come true with these sacrifices as well. Meanwhile, Rose joins the fray but struggles against Gattlecand. Despite being treated poorly by humans in the past, she fights for them now as an apprentice combat agent. Her grandfather taught her to never abandon her friends and always fight for the truth. Snow leaps into action with her defender, while Grimm and Rose urge her to protect the princess at all costs. Back at the castle, Six tries to convince Tilly's to flee with him. He argues that even if they lose their country, her survival would still mean victory for them, as the royal bloodline could still continue. But their escape is interrupted by Snow, who informs them of the dire situation and pleads for Six's help. She even offers him her money and new weapon in exchange for his aid. Alice urges Six to ignore Snow and use all his remaining evil points to ensure their escape back to Earth. With a heavy heart, Six agrees, realizing that he is just a civilian now after being discharged from his unit at an evil corporation. As they make their escape, Six can't help but remember his past as the commander of the army, so he cancels the idea of escaping and stays behind to help. Six and Co. now stand in the castle's balcony. His eyes scan the chaos around him. He knows he needs to act fast if he wants to save Rose and Grimm from being defeated at the hands of demons. Alice, with her usual disappointment, reminds him that he's been with the corporation for so long yet still hasn't received a promotion due to his inability to fully commit to their evil ways. But there's no time for self-pity, as they need to get to the front gate quickly. Without hesitation, Six turns to Alice and asks her to warp in an anti-material gun. She reluctantly tells him that they don't have enough evil points, and Six admits he used them on some cringe magazines instead for his late-night sessions. Desperate for a plan, Six decides to punch the king in the face, figuring that might earn him some quick evil points. Snow intervenes, reminding him that violence isn't always the answer, but then she surprises them all by offering herself completely to Six, so that he may punch her and get some points. Six is hesitant on what to do with Snow. After looking a bit, he does what a man of culture would do. Without hesitation, he pulls her plot down with no guilt. Alice cheers them on, knowing this could be their chance to turn things around. With that, Six uses Snow's evil energy to fuel his own, and suddenly he has an antimatter rifle in his hands to eradicate the enemies. With precise directions from Alice, Six expertly takes out all of the golems standing in their way. But it's not over yet. The Elite Four are still alive and now making their way towards the castle where Hine has prepared for her revenge against Six. However, our group realizes that this was all part of their plan, drawing the demons into one central location. Six misses a shot from his rifle, and the demons quickly realize that he can't fire consecutively without running out of energy. Tensions rise as Six demands Alice to bring out his ultimate weapon, the Bad Sword, a vibrating blade that can take down any armored vehicle. Alice hesitates, knowing they don't have enough points left, but Six is determined and finally the weapon arrives. With a flick of a switch, Six releases the limiters on his suit, allowing him to use all the power he needs for this final battle. He declares that there's only enough room for one bad guy in town and charges towards the Elite Four with his buzzsaw spinning, ready to shove it in unseen places. One by one, he takes them down, leaving only Hine standing. Talk about gender equality where he solos all the male enemies. She realizes her defeat and surrenders to Six's might. Exhausted and unable to move after releasing his limiters, Six calls for a truce for 1 month. After the battle with the elites, Snow softly kisses Six on the lips as a sign of gratitude, thanking him for his efforts. However, Six reveals how he only liked her talents and that's all. Embarrassed, Snow decides to ice-guy this creep once and for all. Later, Tilly's offers Six a coveted spot among the knights once again, but he politely declines, explaining that he no longer wishes to lead his erratic unit. As he prepares to head home, Snow arrives with one last attempt to convince him to stay. After a moment of contemplation, Six looks at all his new friends and decides to help them one last time. With determination, he punishes the strategist by plucking out his remaining hairs, after Snow revealed that the strategist had been up to no good since the start. As Six gets ready to leave once more, Alice points out that he currently has negative 190 evil points, and will surely be punished if he returns to Earth in such a state. Desperate for a solution, they all come to the conclusion that Six must stay until he gains enough positive evil points and can return without facing consequences. And so, with a wicked smile on his face, Six heads off to torment his squad members once again by taking off their clothes. On a WhatsApp call with Astaroth, he pleads to her that he cannot leave this world right now. Furthermore, she reminds him to send his reports regarding the progress. Six exclaims he'll only listen to her if she is ready to become his wife. However, she refuses and Six realizes that he cannot return home just yet. As the leader of his subordinates, he cannot abandon them in this unfamiliar world. She also tells that Alice has spilled the beans to Astaroth about their situation, and she assumes that Six is simply afraid to leave his comrades behind. Despite his initial disappointment, Six asks for updates on their reinforcements. Astaroth informs him that they are close to conquering the world and all their other agents are occupied with fighting against the villains. Later on, there is a duel happening between Six and a mutant reinforcement member named Tiger Man. The sparring is cut short when Six's sword shatters into pieces. Suddenly, Snow arrives at the scene distressed as she recognizes her sword in Six's hand. She reveals that she still has a 5-year loan on it, but the sword is now shattered. To calm her down, Six explains that the sword gained sentience and went off on its own journey. It has now returned after losing a battle with a powerful demon lord but sustains severe damage. Snow is heartbroken, but luckily, Tiger Man offers his sword as a replacement, which delights her up. After a hard-won victory, the group celebrates together and Snow explains why she continues to fight alongside them even though she could have left long ago. Princess Tilly's gave her specific instructions to remain with the group. Alice then shares her reason for accompanying them to the bar. Even though she does not eat or drink like humans do, she conducts research on food safety on this unfamiliar planet. During their observation of monsters fighting for Alice's research purposes, they come across a terrifying sight. A group of barbarians known as head splitters are causing chaos and destruction. During the fight against these creatures, Six finds himself alone in the midst of chaos and fearfully runs for his life. He encounters a crab monster he previously encountered but now realizes that he knows very little about this planet and its creatures. He starts to understand that he could potentially befriend these beasts, but before he can try, Snow arrives and kills the creature. As night falls, the group feasts on the meat of Six's befriended monster, and Rose reveals a shocking truth. Grimm has been summoning undead creatures. Alice dismisses this as mere superstition and claims that Grimm's supposed Lord Zenarith is just a myth. Six watches as Grimm prepares to demonstrate her god's miracles, but loses her nerve when she cannot sacrifice an innocent bunny. She asks Six to do it instead, but he refuses. Alice doesn't hesitate and prepares to slay the rabbit for the sacrifice. Grim is still scared, so she suggests an alternative method, using a slab of meat instead for the sacrifice. After some time, Grim finally summons a demon with juicy plot. Six inquires more about her, but Grim reveals that she was only attempting to summon an ancient evil spirit and had no clue who this demon might be. The devil herself appears before them, offering to grant any wish they desire. Without hesitation, Six requests his own harem, but God knows what the devil might demand in return. Before Alice can protest, the devil stops her heart with a wave of her hand. But since she's an android, her heart can't be stopped. Undeterred by the devil's demands, Alice wishes for her to create 2 inhabitable planets. But it seems she may have asked for too much, as the devil explains that even she has limitations. Not willing to give up, Alice then wishes for all demons to be eliminated from existence. But even this proves impossible for the devil. Alice then makes one final request, for the devil to unclog the toilet in their hideout. The insulted demon quickly departs after being bullied by Alice. Another demon appears out of nowhere, but even he is no match in front of Alice. Grim feels accomplished with her successful summoning, but Alice still remains skeptical regarding Grim's powers. Next morning in the castle, Tilly's ponders what must be done about her nation's water crisis. She considers using the rain art technique that Six had placed a lewd password on. After several failed attempts, Tilly's realizes it must be performed in front of an audience, and she'll have to chant Dick Festival in front of everyone. Calling for Six's assistance, Tilly's explains that she and the king are the only ones able to use the password. But the king has disappeared to get some milk solely because he doesn't want to say the password. Instead, upon Tilly's orders, Snow is sent off to a neighboring nation to retrieve water stones. Tilly's hopes Snow will entice the prince of that nation as a beautiful girl, who is known for his womanizing ways, into doing something inappropriate that they can later use to their advantage. As they make their way on a vehicle for the first time, the group finally arrives at the nation of Taurus. As they prepare for a party, Six reveals that Grim is far past her prime. Grim tries to curse Six but misses completely. The real problem arises when Snow becomes fixated on finding the prince and all his wealth. Six is shocked to see how little she actually cares about his appearance. Despite Snow's excessive flattery and advances, the prince only wants to talk business and warns of potential trouble if he were to shake hands with an enemy's messenger. On the other side, Grim attempts to punish a man for being married because she liked him, but her curse turns against her instead. As the rest of the team continues to act out in strange ways, Six can't help but wonder what he did to deserve such a team. Later, Alice reveals to Six what she discovered during her previous investigation. Uncertain of its purpose, Six explains that it is a pod used for storing objects. Suddenly, one of the Elite Four of Demon Lords arrives and expresses her disappointment at seeing the person who defeated their comrades. His name is Russell, but Six pays him no mind as he immediately claps Hine. As Hine tries to explain that she is not their enemy, she finally manages to get through to Six. Together, they confront the prince, who plans on selling water stones to the demons in hopes of making peace with them. However, Snow explains that this is futile as the land of the demons is constantly being turned into a desert by the Sand King, leaving them no choice but to conquer human lands. Hine reveals that there may be hope for peace, as nearby ruins in Taurus may hold the key to defeating the Sand King. The hesitant prince then considers siding with the Kingdom of Grace, while Snow and Hine try to persuade him further. Meanwhile, Six grows jealous that he wasn't able to handle the situation himself. Surprisingly, the prince disregards his reputation and instead prioritizes diplomatic concerns, much to everyone's surprise. He explains that something happened to him before the party and he is no longer the degenerate he was known for. Six tells Alice to prepare for things to escalate. She confidently assures him of her support, earning him several more evil points by embarrassing the prince by placing his little meat on the prince's head. This results in Grace declaring war on their nation and halting all exports. They demand an apology from Tilly's ambassadors and even orders them to turn themselves in. However, Snow insists on taking responsibility for Six's actions. As punishment for her horribly failed mission, Tilly's demotes Snow and gives them time to prepare since their enemy won't attack immediately. However, Snow suggests using the artifact to make it rain might solve their water crisis, but she is ignored. Instead, Tilly's tasks the unit with retrieving a water nut deep within the Sand King's territory, which can hold large amounts of water. They set out on the treacherous mission, with Rose expressing concern that it may be a suicide mission. However, they discover that the Sand King only becomes active during the day, so they plan to move under cover of night. After collecting several water nuts, Alice once again questions the existence of magic within them. As they move forward, Rose suddenly senses powerful magic nearby. Suddenly, the ground starts shaking and Grim urges Alice to repent for her sins, but it turns out to be not their lord's wrath, but rather the Sand King, who is enraged at having its water nuts taken. With no other choice but to ditch their buggy, they make a dangerous journey across the desert in order to return to their kingdom, and almost everyone is half dead from the heat. Alice is unharmed, but decides to call a break for her group of survivors. With their limited supplies and dwindling options, their only hope is to find sustenance and repair the buggy that will carry them through this wasteland. However, their luck quickly turns when the first thing they encounter is an animal and they decide to eat it. As the situation worsens, Alice makes the tough decision to resort to their last option, using Six's morally corrupt abilities to earn evil points. Although Six's acts are disgusting, but it gives them just enough points to survive for a few more days. But even with 4 days of wandering the desert, things continue to worsen. Six has stopped earning points for his evil deeds and can no longer go into negative territory. Rose notices how often Grim stares at Six and becomes concerned for her friend. She tries to help Six earn more points, but her efforts are futile. She must truly be interested in him after all. Later, while reflecting on how Rose watched them fight earlier, Six realizes he recognizes that look from somewhere. He assumes she just feels hot, but then realizes she looks too young to earn evil points from him. That leaves Snow as the possible target of his tactics of plot manipulation. That night, he pushes her boundaries, offering food and shelter in exchange for stripping her clothes. However, Snow stands her ground and they face off against each other. In a fit of frustration, Alice calls out Six for being a coward and not taking advantage of the opportunity before them. She points out that this is the reason he never gets promoted. Finally, Rose speaks up about what's been on her mind. She wants to engage in some combat in the bed with Six's Mortal Kombat style, with the winner getting to eat the meat of the loser. There's a clear misunderstanding here, and Six's attempts at escape are useless as she literally wants to eat his meat. Realizing he has no other option, Six prepares to fight for his life. He and Rose both claim to be proud warriors as they face off. Luckily, their intense fight earns Six several evil points, and they are able to call for another buggy. Six compliments Rose on being a worthy opponent, and the group finally heads back to the kingdom. Upon their return, they realize they have failed in their mission. The impending attack on Grace is still approaching rapidly as Taurus, and the demons have decided to become allies. Despite not wanting to help, Six knows he's partially responsible for causing this conflict and must take responsibility. Tilly's then reveals their next mission, to retrieve an ancient weapon from the ruins in Taurus that could potentially defeat the Sand King and put an end to the demon's reign of terror. Alice interjects, remembering how this weapon has been sought after for years. But Six makes a bold assumption, perhaps all they need to do is smash it. However, Alice quickly corrects him. They just need to retrieve the weapon and bring it back safely. At the Kisaragi Corporation, the troops are celebrating their victory over the heroes' latest counterattack. As they revel in their success and inch closer to world domination, Astaroth can't help but feel concerned that they might be getting too relaxed. After all, Six and Alice are still on a mission, but Grim is still asleep back at Grace, as usual, and Six plans to use this time to scold Astaroth for not allowing him to delve deeper into negative evil points. Just then, they receive an email from Lilith, notifying all employees of a live stream of the Kisaragi Corporation celebration. Everyone at the party is buzzing with excitement for the yearly boss poll on who's the best leader at the corporation, and Lilith reveals it to everyone that it was Six who came up with the idea, a way to settle the dispute on who should be his boss. Six can't believe everyone is having a good time without him, but Alice realizes what Lilith is really up to by broadcasting the event. She's getting people hooked on watching by showing everyone the juiciest and thickest thighs, so she can charge them for a subscription when they want more. Lilith bets on herself to win the popularity survey, but the other girls quickly point out that she has come last every single year. Belial is currently leading in votes, but also points out that Astaroth has a good chance of winning since she genuinely cares about her subordinates. Lilith manages to get Astaroth to admit that she actually cares about who Six voted for. As Six watches intently and Alice explains Lilith's sneaky plan, fear sets in that she may have revealed too much. Astaroth starts opening up more, and Lilith begins to worry she will reveal too many secrets. Astaroth continues on to say that if necessary, they might have to start firing agents like Six. However, she will fight for them all. But then, they all realize that they are being live streamed and become extremely embarrassed about what has been shown and said on stream. Lilith tries to make things right by having Six say nice things about a stare-off to restore the balance. However, instead of confessing feelings, Six reveals that he secretly recorded the entire event so he can watch it as often as he wants. This statement earns him several evil points, much to a stare-off's sadness. Then Belial tries to console a stare-off by pointing out that several people have changed their votes after her speech, and she should surely be in first place now. But that is not the case, as everyone is shocked to see Lilith suddenly in the lead once again, this time with over 1 million votes. This number is far more than the actual number of employees at the company. Lilith explains that she hired hundreds of thousands of fake employees, offering them unlimited time off and $500,000 a month just for voting for her. After Lilith is whopped by the two girls, the scores are corrected and the results show that a stare-off is actually in the lead. She remembers how Six had helped her in past campaigns by playing tricks to secure her votes. But just when she thought everything was going according to plan, another update shows Lilith once again taking the top spot, but this time with an even greater number of votes. It turns out, Lilith had been rigging the polls all along, and no one could stop her. She smirks as she enjoys victory, while everyone else is left surprised. Lilith's unreasonable decision not to pay the wrongly hired employees sparks punishment from the two girls, but she shrugs it off, citing the corporation's evil nature. A heated discussion breaks out. Eventually, it is decided that gift cards will be given out as compensation from Lilith's own pay, as said by Belial. Asteroth then asks Six on whom did he vote for, but a sudden alarm interrupts their conversation. The group realizes it's a band of approaching heroes, and Lilith reveals that they were tipped off because she was streaming the event. Asteroth confidently assures that they will defeat the heroes and encourages Six and his team to also defeat the Demon Lord. The next day, Alice announces that Tiger Man cannot join them on their mission to the ruins as he must stay behind and aid the kingdom in holding off the Demon Lord's army while the Royal Guards handle Taurus troops, while Six and Co. will infiltrate Taurus to retrieve an ancient weapon and ending the battle. On their way to the location, Six recalls Rose's attempt to eat him, causing Alice to grow impatient while Snow whining about financial debts from buying weapons. Trying to console her, Six gets mocked when Alice reveals that she pays him an allowance. She offers Snow an allowance and a bonus upon completing their mission, which she eagerly accepts. Snow then confesses how far she would go for money, even sacrificing those close to her and abandoning all morals. All of them then discuss their mission as they trek through the ruins. Six sees potential in Snow and believes she would make a great agent for the Kisaragi Corporation. But Alice reveals that she isn't actually evil like they thought. She's just a bottom-feeding scumbag, much like Six himself. As they arrive at their destination, they observe the demon-infested area. Russell, the one of the 4 elite demons, explains to Hine that they have fought countless enemies and will surely reach their goal by the next day. He also reveals that he is a combat chimera, with unlimited magic power as long as he keeps eating. Six starts to question what Grim, another member of their unit, has truly accomplished. But Grim defends herself as a valuable member of the team. Snow chimes in, saying it doesn't matter because she plans on sneaking into the enemy's camp and attacking while they sleep. It seems too cowardly for Grim's taste, and they tease her about how Six's influence is rubbing off on her. However, Six has a different plan in mind. After a night of rest, they will allow the demons to go ahead first and trigger all the traps and fight all the monsters along the way. Once near their goal, when the demons are exhausted from battle, Six and his unit will launch their attack. The following day, they enter the ruins with caution. Alice recalls always feeling like something was off about this world they live in. Meanwhile, Snow's cheapskate hoarding persona wakes up and she starts grabbing relics along the way, assuming they must be worth some money. Even Alice gets distracted as she explores further into the ruins, while Rose feels a strange sense of familiarity here just because she might have a connection here as well. Hine and Russell continue their fight against the Guardians, while Six and Co. trails closely behind. Despite their differences, Hine and Russell show a surprising amount of friendship as they battle. Russell boasts about the strength of the combat cameras they have on their side, but Hine insists on protecting him as he is the only one who can defeat the powerful Sand King. As they approach their target, the ancient weapon, Grim uses her curse to weaken the demons. However, some members of the group begin to feel empathy for these creatures who are simply following orders on their mission. Alice reminds them of the bonus they will receive for completing this task, causing them to quickly change their tune and sell their morals for money. But when they finally reach the weapon, Russell reveals his true intentions, to use the weapon to have revenge on humans. Hine, who's pro-human, also coincides with Russell, as she wants to take revenge against Six only. Suddenly, Six interjects and earns evil points by using Russell as a hostage. Tension rises within the group as Hine reveals how Six had planned to make them do all the work, and then take the prize like any freeloader. Hine taunts Six before Alice points out that Russell isn't breathing. Panic sets in until Alice suggests she may be able to help revive him with one of her gadgets. They wait for Russell to wake up, but when he does wake up, he realizes that Six only wanted him alive so he could use the weapon while watching from a safe distance. As Six demands that they activate the weapon and provide specific instructions for its use, Russell reluctantly follows along with his orders. But just as he enters, Alice determines that destroying the ancient weapon would cause more harm than good. In a desperate attempt to take control, Six tries to use Hine as a hostage again, but Russell has had enough. He bravely stands up to Six and proclaims himself in charge now, with both humans and Sand King at his mercy. Although Hine still manages to escape, Six takes a souvenir from Hine before fleeing in fear, the almost non-existent piece of cloth that covered her talent. She teleports in front of her men but with one less piece of apparel. The group starts to run away from the gigantic robot. But it seems their journey is far from over as they reach the exit, only to find Russell waiting for them. He reveals that they won't be able to run away and the group must face their fate. Grim, always eager for a good fight, suggests using her curse on the ancient battle being commanded by Russell right now. But Alice, ever so skeptical about her magic, says otherwise. She curses Alice, but yet again it backfires on her like all the previous times. As the battle rages on, Six contemplates using his subordinates as a weapon against Russell. But Rose steps in to negotiate. Being a combat chimera like Russell, she convinces Six to tackle the situation herself. But for the first time in the series, Six's moral values wake up, and he says no to her. He urges her team to retreat and watch from the sidelines while he asks Alice for a plan. Alice reveals that their only chance of survival will require Six to go into negative evil points, a risky and dangerous move. However, Six fully trusts Alice's intelligence and leadership, knowing she would never lead them astray. She explains that they need to build a powerful robot to fight against their enemies. However, when it comes to fighting against the robot, Six discovers that his human abilities are no match for it. He devises a plan to deplete the robot's energy source, which is powered by the user's life energy. But since Russell is a combat chimera, the robot has nearly unlimited energy as long as it is fed. Determined to save his friends and defeat the enemy, Six takes on the challenge. Six finally goes outside to fight the robot, and he uses flashbangs and different weapons against it. He shows that he's not just an ordinary human. His actions catch Russell off guard and allow Six to make a daring escape. But Russell soon realizes that Six isn't one to sacrifice himself for others and decides to go after his other accomplices instead. In a moment of desperation, Six uses all his strength and skills to taunt Russell and keep him focused on their battle. Just then, the sound of something monstrous approaching fills the air. Six calmly informs everyone that it is Kisaragi Corporation's pride and joy, the mobile fortress destroyer, controlled by Alice herself. With encouragement from Six, Alice engages in battle with Russell using her own giant Gundam suit. Later on, as they regroup and recover from the intense battle, Six thanks Alice for her quick thinking and bravery during the fight against the huge robot. It was truly a battle for the ages, and they had come out victorious thanks to their teamwork and determination. She tells him that she continued to use the destroyer robot, instilling fear in the Taurus army, making them flee from her power as she single-handedly defeated the Demon Lord's army. The mission is now complete, but Six has been unconscious for several days now, and due to this Alice never left his side, and even wiped his bum when he shat his pants, promising to stay with him forever. Later on, they visit the imprisoned Russell, who declines Six's offer on changing sides and revealing the truth to them. As one of the Demon Lord's Elite Four, he refuses to betray his team. Six threatens him, but the fearless chimera only responds with taunts towards his mom. However, he is terrified after seeing Tiger Man. Eventually, he agrees on doing whatever Six has to say. Afterwards, Grim is upset that she never had a chance to shine during the mission, but Six reminds her that she did have her moments when her curses backfired and everyone laughed at her. Feeling guilty, Grim requests to be moved to another unit. Six agrees, but then changes his mind after seeing how unhappy she is. He starts questioning the curse that prevents her from wearing anything on her feet. To test it out, he calls Alice and they are both surprised when it turns out to be true, when they cover her feet with socks and she actually explodes. Meanwhile, Astaroth reads Six's report about the success of his mission but also about the ongoing struggles on the planet. He requests reinforcements and Astaroth contemplates whether or not she should go help. Later on, that same night, Six explains that due to using all points during this mission, he still can't return home or rest. Alice reveals that Kisaragi Corporation will only continue to make him conquer more planets. With this in mind, Six considers staying on this planet forever and build his ultimate harem. That's it for today, my fellow men of culture. Like and subscribe to the channel for more plot-filled recaps.